Hello and welcome to Sonyabeonit channel. Today I'm going to show you how to cook some good old Southern style chitlins. I'm going to show you how to clean them and cook them to perfection. You're going to love this video. This is a video I had in my archive from 2012 Thanksgiving dinner, and I wanted to bring it on this year because I know a lot of people want to know how to clean and cook chitlins, for those of you who still enjoy it or love chitlins. So with that in mind, let's get started. You're going to open those chitlins to see how severely, I guess how bad they are, for is how much cleaning you're going to have to do. And if you do this, it'll be less of a mess or less cleaning. And a lot of times you still want to check this because you want to make sure that they're not selling you more waste than chitlins. So down here in the South, around this time of year, which is the holidays, I love eating chitlins, and I was pretty much raised off of eating chitlins around the holidays. We really enjoy chitlins around the holiday season, around Thanksgiving, Christmas, and sometimes on occasion people eat it around the first of the year. Now, do you eat it throughout the year and in the summertime? I really wouldn't recommend it because we're talking about pork, and to eat this in the summertime, personally, I would not do it. Now, this is a bucket this is the last bucket I have to clean. It's not too bad. It may look bad. It has some it's still frozen. It's partially frozen. So what I'm going to do is dump this over into an old big cake pan container that I have. Help it to dissolve it, and we're going to begin cleaning it. But I'm going to go over to the other sink because what I want you to see is I have already gone ahead. I went ahead and cleaned 2 buckets, and as you can see, this 2 buckets is not equivalent to a entire bucket. So you're not going to get that much. So if you could do in 3 buckets, you may get a bucket and a half, and that should be enough for probably 3 or 4 people, 2 servings per person. So what I'm going to do is take this over to the other sink, pour this over to that bowl or that top, and we're going to help this ice to further dissolve itself, and we're going to begin the cleaning process. Also, once we finish cleaning the chitlins, I'm going to show you how to take that smell away from your hand, and when you're cooking it, I'm going to show you as well how to dissolve some of that odor so it would not linger through your house. Some tips in cooking the chitlins. But it is always important. It's going to take several hours to clean chitlins, especially if you have 3 buckets. I'm thinking 5-6 hours, if that, because me personally, I want to make sure that that lining comes off the walls of the intestine of that pork chitlins. And what you're cleaning is, this is a chitlin. Let me see, can I pick up mine a little bit better than that? Okay, here we go. That is what you call the intestine of a pig. Now, we all have this. May not look the same, but we have intestines in our bodies. The lining, there's a lining that coats this, so when the waste comes through, it's not so harsh for the pig. So what you're going to remove is the lining of that intestine, and you're going to have some small specks of waste particles. You want to make sure the lining is removed, as well as those specks of greenness or possibly black. But they taste good. It's like a, how would I say this? It's an acquired taste when you're going to eat chitlins. So let's go over to the other side of the sink. We're going to pour this over and begin the cleaning process. So stay tuned. Okay, I'm going to get the bucket. I'm trying not to get in the shot because I'm not real dressed for it. As you can see, I'm taking this juice and I'm going to pour it in the open part of my opposite side of my sink, because I really don't want to pour that in my bucket. I'm going to pour that out. Okay, we're going to take that, bring it over, gently pour it because you don't want it to splatter everywhere. Okay, you're going to put that there. Always keep your red container, because this is the container that you're either going to put your waste in to throw away, or you're going to put your chitlins in. So this is how the chitlins look once they come out of that container or that bucket. That's how it's going to look. Those are not really bad. The coloration of it is pretty good. You want to take some cool to warm water and begin to try to dissolve the rest of that ice off those chitlins. Now, if you can see this right here, I'm going to take some cool water, dissolve that. Let me zoom out some so you can see a little bit better. We want to go ahead and dissolve that really good. As you can see, they don't give you as many as they used to way back when. They used to give you a lot of chitlins in a bucket. But this is really not a whole lot. And this is just enough for me. If I have any companies to come over for the holidays, I will have enough to share. So, and if I don't eat them all, I just freeze them and save them for Christmas. But if you live down south, you enjoy chitlins. You enjoy eating chitlins. Okay, we have a small one. I have a small one in my hand. What you want to do, let me zoom in a little bit so you really can see this. Okay, you want to take your hands, go to the side wall of that. You're going to feel it because there is a softness. That lining have like a real smooth surface to it. Take your hands to the very edge and you're going to pull. You're going to pull that away. That is the beginning of ripping that lining off the intestines. That's what I talked about. And the best way to really do this is to have some running water and you put it under the water. Okay, now that is what you call the lining. And we talked about some particles may be on the lining of the intestines, of the lining, I'm sorry. And see those small particles? That is part of waste. I know a lot of people is just not going to really want to see this, but for those of you who like chitlins, this is what you're going to remove. And a lot of times, you may want to eat some chitlins, but you know what? I don't know how to clean the chitlins. I don't know how to cook the chitlins. I don't want to wait till auntie or grandma cook it. I want to learn how to do it myself. And there's nothing wrong with that. So to look at that, I have removed all of that. And to know that you have removed it, you take your finger and roll it across it. Especially on the edges. Roll it across that edge. And if anything additional come off, you know it's not clean. But this is just our first run. This is what you call a first clean. Our first cleaning. We're going to place that in now over to the side. We're going to place that in that bowl. Or in that bucket, I'm sorry. And then we're going to try to dissolve some more so we can clean again. Do you see the darkness of that? That is the inside of the chitlins wall. This is the inside of the intestines. That's what you call the lining, which we just talked about. Now, it has some specks on it. It has some waste on it. And what we're going to do, we're going to take your hands. Always try to go from the side walls. Sometimes it works this way and sometimes it's already loose enough. Okay, I couldn't pull anything from that side too much. So then I'm going to do like this. I'm going to rub it. Pinch it a little bit. And there it is. It's going to begin the process. Now, we talked about the best way to do it is have your water running a little bit on cool. If you run the water and then take it under the water, it's easier to separate the two. You see how easy that's coming off? Go back to the side because there's some waste. And to know that you have all of that lining off of the intestine, it's going to turn white. It's going to be like a pearly, pretty white. That's okay if you rip it. Okay. There's that waste. There's the lining. So we're going to discard that. We're going to throw that away. Run it under the water. Okay, now you see how pretty that is, how pink that is? Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and finish cleaning the remaining of this bucket. I need to dissolve this ice. And then I'm going to come back and show you how to dissolve that odor off your hands, as well as less of an odor within your house as it's cooking. I'm going to show you some tips or something you can do to cut back on that smell. So, stay tuned. So what I'm going to do now is pour it into this pot. Have the pot placed in the sink. I wanted to make sure that I have a large pot that would accommodate that many chitlins. And what you want to do is use a fairly large pot, and you're going to fill it up. You're going to use probably about a gallon of water or so, a little bit more than a gallon of water. It all depends on what kind of pot you have. But we want to go ahead and pour those chitlins over into that pot. Let me see what it should be. Oh, Lord. Didn't mean to make a mess. Okay. So that worked. It fit the pot. It didn't splatter on the counters. It just went in the sink a little bit. But okay, that filled that entire pot. So what I want to do is go ahead and add just a little bit more water. You want it full, but you don't want... Now, for me, I've been doing this for a long time. So, this pot is okay for me, but I would recommend that you have a larger pot where it seems as though the chitlins are a little bit lower than this, but it has more water in it. Now, what we're going to do with this first pot of chitlins is place it on the stove and cook it for about 30 minutes, and then we're going to let it come to a boil. We're going to boil it, bring it back to the sink. We're going to pour that grease off. We're going to do that twice. So we're going to take the pot over to the stove, let it cook for 30 minutes, rinse that off, fill it up once again, let it do it again for 30 minutes, and then that third pot of water that we're going to put in there, that's going to be our final water. And then to add to that, we're going to drop in an onion. You can either use onion or onion powder, and you're going to use a whole potatoes, because that is going to dissolve some of the odor. It would take it out of the house, and you want to worry about your guests, or you just having this foul smell in your house. So let's go ahead and take this pot over to the stove and get started cooking it. You want to cook it on a low setting to start. Once we clean, this is another method of cleaning the chitlins. So once we take it over to the stove, we're going to let it boil for 30 minutes. We're going to rinse it off. We're going to refill the pot, let it boil once again for 30 additional minutes, and then we're going to drain that again. And our final pot of chitlins with the water in it, we're going to add either onion or onion powder with one whole potato, and then we're going to cook that on a medium setting. So let's go ahead and do that. Stay tuned. Okay, I have the chitlins boiling on the stove. I have it on a very low setting. We're going to let this boil for 30 minutes. Let it come to a boil for 30 minutes. And this is another method of cleaning your chitlins. So we're going to let them boil for 30 minutes. And once it comes to a boil, we're going to go ahead and remove it from the stove. And we're going to rinse that off, that water from the chitlins. We're going to do this 2 times. Now, if you have a colander, I think is what it's called, you're going to go ahead and pour your chitlins inside of that colander, and you're going to rinse it off, place it back in the pot, and we're going to do a second boil for 30 minutes. So stay tuned. Okay, so now that the chitlins are on the stove and we're doing a pre-cleaning of 30 minutes, I'm going to show you how to dissolve that smell from your hand, so you won't have that smell lingering on your hand all day. And if you go back and check out one of my videos, tutorial in reference to cleaning supplies under $10, what we're going to use today to dissolve this smell, we're going to use this LA Awesome. This is an all-purpose cleaner. You can buy this from your dollar store, and this is a 32 ounce, and I bought it from my dollar store for $1. So what I want you to do is go ahead and spray it in your hand. Do not add any water. Make sure you spray it in here real good. You're going to rub it in really, really good. You want to do that probably for about a minute or so. And as you can see, I had collard greens. I had cleaned some collard greens earlier as well. And I could not get that color off my hand. So now it's turning like a greenish color, a yellow greenish color. So it's not only taking that smell off my hand, but it's also removing that color from those collard greens that I cooked earlier. And then you're going to rinse your hand really, really good. Now I want you to find some type of hand rag. Go ahead and dry your hands. Now you may have to do this twice, but it's worth it if it's going to take away the smell. Okay, so there you go. And that's it. Once again, the product we just used is the LA Awesome. And you can buy this in your dollar store, or you can check it out. And I think they have it at Walmart. Try it. It really does work. Okay, now it's been 30 minutes. Let's go ahead and check on our chitlins. Okay, they've been boiling for 30 minutes. There is just a little grease on top of that, which is not bad. These are really some good chitlins. The buckets that I picked up, as you can see, they're cooking down. You're going to have some kind of grease because, I mean, you're dealing with the pig, and not only that, this is like the intestines of the pig. So this is how it's looking. I'm going to zoom in so you can see that. Okay, so what we're going to do now is take this over to the sink. We're going to drain this water, rinse it off, and we're going to do an additional 30 minutes and go from there. Okay, this is what I was talking about. I think it's called colander, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. But this is what you're going to need. You're going to place that in your sink. Go over to the stove, pull your chitlins. Make sure you have something to protect your hands so you won't get burned. I'm going to go over. I'm going to show you this grease once again. Do you see that grease? We're going to pour that off because we really don't want that much. A bit at a time. My sink is clean. Do you see how 3 buckets of chitlins just cooked down? That's really enough for one person, to be honest. To be seriously honest, that is enough for one person. I am not going to buy any more. I do know that. We're going to take that. We're going to rinse that off very well. It doesn't matter what type of temperature of water you use. You can use hot water, cold water, it doesn't matter. Because we're going to do another rinse. Or pre-cleaning is what I call it. Pour that out of the pot. Okay, so since that have cooked down, we're going to use a half a pot of water. Let's place those back in there. Do you see that? 3 buckets of chitlins. That's all I got. Go ahead and let that fill up. Okay, and the other thing, I have a large size pot because I'm getting ready to cook some collard greens as well. Do you see that? I am so hurt right now. I only eat it once a year, and this is all I have. Okay, we don't have to fill it all the way to the top because, as you can see, we don't really have that many left after doing that first boil. So we're going to go ahead and place this back on the stove for 30 minutes. And this is going to be our final pre-cleaning of the chitlins. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at our second and final pre-cleaning of our chitlins on the stove. Okay, looking at that, there's really not that much oil. It cooked down just a little bit more. Let's go ahead and take that off the stove. We're going to take this over to the sink, rinse it, fill it up with our cooking water, and we're going to add a couple other ingredients to this dish. Okay, as you can see, this is our final pot of water that we had to put inside our chitlins. Now this time I used a full pot of water because I'm going to allow this to slow cook on the stove for about 5 hours. And I'm going to cook it on a medium-low heating. That is all I have. So once that cooked down, we'll know that the chitlins are ready to be served. Now the secret ingredients in order to cut down on the odor, to absorb the odor, is a regular potato. You can use a half. If you have a full pot, I prefer you use a whole potato. But since I don't have that many, I'm only going to use a half a potato. You have the option of using onion powder, or you can use a whole onion. This is not quite a whole onion, but that's fine. Don't want that much. When it comes to your dry season, the only 2 things that you really would need is just a hint of black pepper. And when I say hint, we're going to use a half a teaspoon. We're going to use that as a half a teaspoon of black pepper. Anytime you go to someone's house and they're cooking chitlins and they have disguised it with all this black pepper, guess what? That means they did not really clean those chitlins good. That's all you need. And that is a half a teaspoon of black pepper. Now when it comes to your all-purpose seasoned salt, and this is by choice, you can put whatever type season, dry season you want inside of it, but I prefer this. I'm going to use this one, which is a half a tablespoon, because I really want it to be seasoned really well. And you're just going to go ahead and pour that inside of your water, and that's it. I'm going to place that back on the stove with the lid on it. We're going to mix it up very well. That's all you're going to need. And wait till you see how they look once they're cooked. We're going to put this on the stove for about 5 hours. It's going to take a minute. You have to have patience when you're cooking chitlins, because you want to make sure they're done, tender, and just the taste you just want to make sure everything is on point. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back on the stove. I'm going to put the lid on. I'm going to slow cook it as if it's cooking in a crock pot. But I'm going to cook it on a medium-low heating for 5 hours. So stay tuned for the final meal to see how everything comes together with the chitlins. And with my chitlins, I'm going to make some homemade coleslaw. I even have a tutorial online about how to make coleslaw. I'm going to make me some homemade coleslaw as a side dish to go with my chitlins. So stay tuned. So there you have it. Chitlins served with a side order of homemade coleslaw and grandma recipe for sweet candy yams. Enjoy. So I hope you've enjoyed the time we've shared together in making this down south traditional chitlins served with a side order of homemade coleslaw and grandma recipe for sweet candy yams. So until next time, be blessed.